Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Vinny Makes the Hall of Fame Case 4. And I'm your host, Kirk Buckner. I run NotInHallOfFame.com, the Fictitious Athlete Hall of Fame, the Fictitious Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and the United States Athletics Hall of Fame. Check those out when you can. But the real star of the show is Vinny Lospinuso, who has done a phenomenal job telling us about some people who have maybe slipped through the cracks of Halls of Fame. But this one is really interesting because he hasn't slipped through the cracks as of yet. He's actually on the Baseball Hall of Fame ballot as we are recording this. And as this goes up, he's trending to stay on it. Whether he does or doesn't, I don't know. But I'm more excited, not because we're doing something more modern, Vin, but it's someone who you're a fan of. I mean, like, you're a fan of a lot of people, but somebody you watched play. This is new ground. Who are we talking about?
Well, this is essentially what I like to call the baseball version of Tiki Barber. We'll get a case for him down the line. But the way I see it, in terms of players I grew up, there's Jesus himself, Matt Ryan. And then you have the second tier of people that I watch play that have a lot of emotion towards. Those are like a 2A and 2B being Tiki Barber and David Wright.
Okay.
In fact, even on my wall, there's some things that have one half of it is Tiki Barber and the other half is David Wright stuff. In fact, even when I was younger, I remember like a fourth grade project, it was like in the shape of like a gingerbread man. And I did one on David Wright, and I did it based off the black jersey and the white pants, actually.
Nice. So David Wright's an interesting one, I think, to talk about. So you're gonna have to do a bit of convincing for me. I think, off the top of my head here, David Wright belongs in the New York Mets Hall of Fame, which they do have.
Yeah.
I don't know how much further in terms of the actual baseball hall itself. Now, obviously, what works for him is we've got a player who was very popular for his team and stayed with one team, which is very, very, very rare. I like David Wright. I like him a lot. Stat wise, I don't see him there. Am I wrong?
Yes and no. David Wright is someone who, if you looked at like his hard numbers, like alone, you would say no. But I see him a lot as the method, someone I'm also very, very, very strong for. He is someone who, during his time in the majors, during that era, he was seen as the very best third baseman in the major leagues. At least I saw him as that. He was a top 10 vote getter for the NL MVP 4 times.
Was it 4? I thought it was 3, but it's 4.
4 times.
3 of them were top 6, were they not?
Yes, they were top 6.
Okay.
He like during those Mets years, I thought of 3 players. Carlos Beltran, who's going to make it eventually, Jose Reyes, who doesn't have a chance, and David Wright. But David Wright was the team. He was Captain America. He was the face of the franchise.
So when you say stat-wise that gets him in, is it you're looking at the MVP final? Like
everything. I look at everything.
Character is that something that maybe I'm missing? Because you would know more about
I don't focus at all on character.
You don't? Okay.
Like I think character is thrown around by people that have way worse character. Okay. That's my main issue. Like I mean, look at what vote for the Hall of Fame. Do you think Dan Shaughnessy has good character? Do you think George King has good character? Do you think a lot of these people that vote and make it all about themselves?
Well, okay, now I'm talking about the players themselves, but not necessarily. You and I can talk hours and hours about how Dan Shaughnessy should not have a vote on anything, but yes.
Yeah. In terms of, I mean, yeah, he had great character. He was a great representative for the team, but that's not why I want him in. I mean, that's a nice little bonus. It's like a cherry on top, but it's not the home run that makes me want him in.
Okay, fair.
I mean, he was also someone who has a higher offensive WAR than Adrian Beltre. And this is a guy that's should be he's going to make it first ballot. He's
It's
also
trending that way as we're doing this. Yes.
he's definitely going to make it first ballot.
Okay.
As
So
he should. I mean, at least I think he should. He was one of the best third basemen of all time.
okay. So as we're discussing here, Beltre, Wright is trending that he's going to be lucky to advance to the second ballot because I think he's right now trending at 10%. A lot of voters who in baseball who don't make their vote public, it always feels like everything goes down predominantly
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
I always give even Shaughnessy, any baseball writer who's going to make their vote public, hats off to you, man. You don't have to.
Yeah.
And
Well,
if
there's some other guys I don't really respect. I don't respect
I respect him for this, but
I don't respect them at all. I'll be frank, I don't respect him at all. I don't care.
don't
I
change,
don't
man. Don't change.
well, I don't respect a lot of them, and I'm gonna be frank about it because the Baseball Hall of Fame is the one I have the most problems with, and I think David Wright's a big example why I have a lot of problems with it.
We haven't really seen this play out yet.
What do you mean?
Well, as we're recording this, the there's still some more time for votes to come through. So
Still, but
David Wright could very well advance. If he does, then that's more and more years of discussion. Now, where I'm looking at Wright, and I wouldn't vote for him bluntly, and we can disagree,
fine.
and we have on a few things. Stat wise, I just don't see him there. I mean, like at one point he was pretty goddamn good for a decent period of time, but power wise, he doesn't have the full numbers. Advance wise, he's not at 50 in B War.
He's at 49.2 though.
He's not
Very
50.
close. There's guys with even worse WAR that are in. I mean,
And I will say that they probably shouldn't be there.
Derek Jeter has like I think a sub 50 WAR too.
Derek Jeter does not have a sub 50 War.
He does.
I guarantee you he does not.
See, Derek Jeter. Derek Jeter.
And I'll go on record that Derek
Oh
Jeter.
yeah. Well, why do you think of a sub 50 WAR? I'm thinking of something else. I think defensive WAR it's sub 50.
Maybe you're thinking of Jaws.
Yeah, Jaws it's lower. His WAR is 71.3. Why would I think Jeter? I mean, it's dumb
I
that
don't
I
know.
thought that.
I don't know. It's well, you're a Mets guy. You have it's rare, and this is the great thing with Vin. Vinny is one of the biggest sports fans I've ever met. The biggest sports fan I've ever met, who can keep everything objective. So seeing this little crack here in your Mets armor, in your Falcons armor with Atlanta, is kind of
Or like
interesting to see.
it's sort of like mix of Giants from when I was younger,
Yeah.
Met Falcons when I got older. Mets I've kind of been more more like a younger thing, but I've always had an attachment to David Wright. So this is like an instance where kind of I guess bias does kind of show a little bit. But I know that in terms of WAR, specifically with David Wright, when it comes to 2005 to 2014, there's only in terms of top three for WAR in the National League, there's Chase Utley at one. Then it's Albert Pujols at two, which tells you how dominant he was for his years in St. Louis because half that time he was in Anaheim. And then you have David Wright in at number three. Like David Wright during that period, that 10-year gap was one of the very best players in baseball.
Do you know off the top of your head how long you have to wait to get in the Mets Hall?
No, not that I personally know of, because they've been now finally starting to retire some more numbers. They're retiring Doc Gooden's number. They're retiring Darryl Strawberry's number. They recently retired Keith Hernandez's number. They've added some people into
I'm
the
not talking
Mets
about
Hall of Fame.
retiring his number. I mean, I think I actually have him higher. Okay, here's a question here. It's technically not really part of his Hall of Fame candidacy. I got roasted by someone because I got David Wright higher than Mike Piazza in terms of all-time Mets. Am I
Why
wrong?
would you get roasted?
I guess somebody said I didn't know what I'm talking about.
No, I have right above Piazza myself.
Yeah, because I mean, I look at Piazza's overall numbers. Yeah, he might be more iconic as a Met, but he was a more efficient player as a Dodger.
Yeah, he played his most efficient years with the Dodgers, and he spent more time with the Mets. However, looking at the Mets history, I know that also Keith Hernandez gets thrown in there too, but looking at the Mets, their best pitcher ever is Tom Seaver. Their
Absolutely.
best player that's not a pitcher is David Wright. Like David Wright was the heart and soul of that team that I grew up with.
Okay,
Same way that I mean,
yeah.
Barber was like at the very end of his time, and like Eli took over. But with the Mets, for most of my time when I was young, it was his team. Like that was David Wright's team.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I've got a few position players ahead of him. Strawberry comes to mind.
It's fine. I mean,
Yeah.
granted, again, this is sort of an instance where even though I may think a lot older, I think maybe it's the instance of him being a captain also with right now. Don't get me wrong, Strawberry's more well known, Gooden's more well known, Piazza's more well known. Though I think you can make a real case that Wright is better than them. Now, in terms of like me right in, I don't think he will personally make it, and the big reason why I have a lot of negative feelings for the not basketball, for the Baseball Hall of Fame, is because I feel like you could say the number that, but at the same time, the same people will get upset when like a Harold Baines makes it, or if Omar Vizquel gets traction because they label them as compilers and they look at them
I don't
negatively
think
that
we have to
they're
worry about Omar right now.
yeah, I'm not. I'm giving examples of
Yeah,
people that as much as the same people say you don't have enough numbers, even if they do have the numbers, they do look down on them as they just label them as compilers. And that's why I don't like using that term compiler, because it often kind of comes off like it's a very dirty word. It's like, oh, you just did it there. You didn't do it by our standards, therefore it wasn't good enough, which I don't like using that term because in the same way that I like people that played a long time and got the stats that were necessary, I also like the same on the other side, the people that had a shorter peak but were extremely dominant. Like, I mean, I support for football, I support a guy
yeah,
like a Terrell Davis who's in,
right.
and I support a guy like, someone like a Ken Riley, for instance. I mean, they're both kind of different. Like one had a really long stretch of being really, really good for a long time, and he rightfully made it. And Terrell Davis was someone that's played for a short time, but was extremely strong in that time. So I support both sides of the coin. Wright is on that.
No, no, I think that's fair. But with David Wright, I don't know that his peak was good. Don't get me wrong, but we're not talking about Mike Schmidt. I'm just thinking of
No, but that's also a pretty massive high bar because
some
third
people
base is
set the
also
bar that way.
it is the highest bar. Mike
Yeah,
Shit is considered the greatest third baseman of all time,
yeah.
but third base is also a position that's been historically underrepresented into the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Okay.
Beltre is going to make it this year. Arenado better make it first ballot. I think I love knowing Arenado.
We got a ways to before we're discussing him, but yeah.
Yeah, but still, I think highly of Arenado. Third base is a position that is underrepresented throughout Cooperstown's history. Even though I was very big on Scott Rowland, I know that many people around here were not very high on him
Why is that?
because they saw him as only good defensively and Wright they viewed as a more all-around kind of a player. And they also feel like Rowland was only added because they just were not happy that Rowland got added. Like they
I,
were very angry that Rowland, even
Interesting.
though I don't understand why, but
I was happy Roland got in
oh,
personally.
me too. Like I was really happy. It's more so they're angry that Rollins in and Wright probably won't be. That's a big reason
Well,
for it too,
you know,
especially as
you,
Wright was so integral to like New York. That's why.
well, you get past the first thing and then you see what happens. I mean,
Give me the
it's
first.
well, the first level, right? You get past your first year, you survive your first year, and usually things just can go up unless you're Omar and
Well,
things go down.
even then, Andrew Jones has been accused of some stuff too. So I think it's kind of hypocritical that they're
Whoa,
blaming
whoa.
Omar for
What
some
was
stuff.
he
No, like
accused of? I missed that completely.
Andrew Jones apparently beat up his wife many times.
He did?
Yeah, there's a lot of domestic stuff with him. There's a lot of issues
I
behind the
was
scenes, but
aware of none of that. Okay.
I don't care. Again, like I know it sounds kind of weird that I say that I don't care, but like
No, it doesn't, Ben. I mean, like you're a pure on the field type of person, and like, and that's not a wrong thing. It's I don't know if it's a right thing either, but I mean, like that's who you are, and there's a lot of people who think the same way you do,
I
and
mean, well, I'm more than solely on the field, but like for
more
different reasons.
more so than most. And again, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
But when I say
Sometimes,
on the field, I mean the achievements there. Like if I talk about
yeah,
off the field stuff, I mean in terms of what you do as an executive, what you do as a coach, what you do as an announcer or broadcast. I mean that stuff I'm
yeah,
big
no, that's
into.
true. I know that's how you look at a lot of things. That's a very
Mhm.
good point. Well, I think Wright's going to survive.
You better. I don't feel another guy I'm big on is Matt Holiday. I'm a huge Holiday fan.
Really?
I don't think he
Okay.
has a chance.
We could talk about him another time, but it's
Yeah.
uh, it's always a fascinating debate. And I've said to Evan, my partner on the Weekly Hall of Fame show, I could put together a baseball dynasty of one and done players.
Oh yeah, and that's another reason why I don't really like baseball's hall because like Jorge Posada over here in New York was so beloved and was part of the core for along with Jeter, Rivera, and Pettit, and he didn't even make his first year despite his stats being extremely high, or even someone like Ted Simmons who was one and done despite finishing all time in terms of hits per catcher. Just so mind-boggling to me. And
Lou
my
Whitaker.
friend, don't even get started on Lou Whitaker. Lou Whitaker, oh my God. Like I spoke to Amir Farid, Ahmad
Who's that?
Farid back at the Cleveland airport. He works for NBC.
Okay.
He was on a Sunday Night Football, actually. I said, oh, I know that guy. He told me as a kid in Michigan,
Don't you know?
the the world to him revolved around Lou Whitaker. He loved, loved, loved Whitaker as a Detroit native. And I can't blame him because, not segueing there, it's kind of weird to not have one and not the other. I mean, for the Mets, it's a different story because the Mets, I was saying Beltran, Reyes, and Wright. Obviously, Reyes has no chance. Beltran should make it, but it just feels a little weird to me. Even though I know Beltran was a longer term player, it just doesn't feel right to not have Wright there.
I hear that. Reminds me of a Magnum PI episode where Lou Whitaker and Alan Trammell guest starred.
Oh yeah, it's because like you always have those two together, Trammell and Whitaker.
Absolutely. Uh, and you are the only person under 30 or under 50, really, who I believe would actually know what that episode I'm
I
talking
know
about.
Magnum PI. Yes, I
Oh,
do
I
know
know, but I
about
mean,
that.
like even that actual reference.
Yes, I
All
do know it.
right. So with that, that's a good one. I really wanted to see how you looked at somebody, God, who's younger than me. That's the first time we've ever talked about a candidate younger than me.
Yeah, he actually just turned 41 years old, actually.
Great. A lot younger than me. Thanks.
Yeah, well, he's not that much younger. He's only 10 years younger. It's not like I'm making a case for someone like, I don't know. You can make a case for I can make a case for Luka Doncic right now.
So could I, and I have.
Me
So,
too.
yeah, so that's why I've got the basketball monitor going on. Well, with
Mhm.
that, this is another great show. I can't. Do you know who you're doing next, by the way?
If I'm gonna do David Wright, I gotta follow up with Tiki Barber.
Okay, all right,
Yeah,
that'll be fun. All right, because I think you and I have a very different opinion on that one.
it's
Which,
fine.
yeah, well, that's why we get along. Then we don't have to
Yeah,
agree with each other.
yeah,
We just listen to each other, which is fantastic. And
yeah,
unfortunately, not a lot of Hall of Fame voters want to listen to other people, but that's neither here nor there.
yes.
So with that, check out other shows in the Bucknerverse. Vinny's also doing a great series with me right now where we're looking at basketball nominees in the preliminary round. So we're sort of like telling you all about all these people that maybe you've never heard of and why they're on a list. Because the Hoop Hall, sadly, is not done a great job. All they have to do is like a quick paragraph, and they haven't. So
Yeah.
we're giving those verbal paragraphs. Check that series
Sweet.
out.
Okay. See you guys.
All right, take care, everybody.